Hey, sports fans, Larry Eater here. It's your favorite daily podcast, Coffee with Larry. And it is Tuesday, May 6th, 2025. This is the 71st anniversary of the first sub 4 minute mile set at Iffley Road Track on the Oxford campus in a meet between the AAA and the Oxford Cambridge. Roger Bannister at the time, now he's Sir Roger Bannister, ran 3:59.4. He was paced by Chris Brazier and Chris Chataway. Um, Brazier would go on to help found the London Marathon as well as take an Olympic medal. Chris Chataway as well. Um, Sir Roger Bannister passed away in 2018, right on the second day of the World Indoor Champs in Manchester. We'll be posting some pieces from our archives about Sir Roger Bannister. It was a tremendous occasion in the sport, and it not only emboldened people of the time. Remember, this was 1954. It was less than 9 years after the end of World War II. Britain was still finishing up rationing after World War II. A little sidebar: Athletics Weekly, one of our favorite magazines, their first issue was called Issue 3. You want to know why? Because in 1945, a new magazine could not publish because there was a paper shortage. There were shortages with everything. World War II affected everything. And what the ascent on Mount Everest, done by a Brit, Sir Edmund Hillary, and the sub 4 minute mile really cheered people up, and it was a big, big deal. I suspect there's over 6,000 times that the sub 4 minute mile has been broken. I still think it's a huge deal. But there are now people like, Josh Kerr who have come pretty close to putting 2 miles in a row under 4 minutes. Our friend Jakob Ingebrigtsen has definitely done that, and in his 3,000 record. So it's something to think about and think about where we're at now. So this is Coffee with Larry. I'm Larry. Don't have coffee right now. Now, why don't I have coffee? Well, because I'm recording from Fort Hospital in Fort Atkinson. I'm staying overnight for some tests. Yearly, I get tests on my heart to make sure everything's going well. I had a CT scan today. Tomorrow, I get a stress test and another CT scan. And it was just easier for me to be here. And the staff is awesome, and they're keeping people out of my room for the next 45 minutes so we can chat, right? So, busy weekend, right? Let's start with the Grand Slam track. Now, you guys all know my feelings about Grand Slam. I think what Michael Johnson has done is brilliant. I think he's challenging the status quo. I think that's why he has half of his enemies, because people who've made a lot of money off the sport are afraid. But I think there's some legitimate criticisms of the event. The first event I thought was a pretty darn good job, a great shakedown cruise. I thought there was some very good competitions. Cindy McLaughlin and Gabby Thomas really showed their stuff in Kingston. What was difficult for me was that in a track capital, Kingston, Jamaica is the equivalent of Eugene, Oregon in many ways, right? Or a major city like Zurich in Switzerland for the Weltklasse. In that city, where there had been 30,000 fans in the same stadium the week before for a high school championship, they couldn't get 6,000 in the stadium. And there were reasons. There were major events on the weekend. There were no hotel rooms. There was very little parking. There was a musical event on the Saturday session that just drove people crazy. I got notes on my Facebook account from our readers in Jamaica that they just turned around and went home after buying $60 tickets. They were so frustrated. So that tells you a little bit about how crazy it was, right? And then on Sunday, the way they did the Sunday session, it was right at the time in Jamaica. People like their family supper on Sundays. And so, and track is a real family sport in Jamaica. And just that lack of knowledge by the team, who had a lot of things to cover, just showed that, you know what, you're doing a pretty good job, but here's the thing that's important. Michael Johnson has raised $30 million for this endeavor. He has put his name and his reputation on the line. And I know what it's like. I founded 3 publishing businesses, and I borrowed money, and I owed money, and I had 10 to 15 phone calls a day from people who wanted to be paid money when I didn't have money, because everybody thought, well, if you're doing magazines, you got to be rich, right? Or if you're traveling, you got to be rich. Au contraire. So I appreciate it. Again, mine is on a much smaller scale. I was dealing with about $3.5 million a year, and it was I was publishing 9 publications. We were selling ads for 35. A wonderful group of publishers. I miss it. It was one of my favorite times in my life, but it took a big toll from me. The stress alone. I now have 5 stints, and I am now managing my diabetes and my heart issues, and my cholesterol is 109, and I'm walking 5,000 steps, and I'm going to see a note from Charles Alexander, Larry, you should be walking 10,000 steps. I know. My brother tells me that every day, and I'm going to try to get up to that because I want to be around for a much longer time. So, but let's get back to that. The stress for Michael. Michael had a stroke, 6-8 years ago, and he came back from that. He's a resilient person. I totally respect Michael. So I give the first meet, and I'm trying to be I have no financial involvement with the meet at all. I give the first meet a B. Now, I got hate mail on that from major players in the sport because they said, one told me that I'm part of the reason why, I'm one of the reasons why the sport is failing, and I really appreciated that. But many people said things like, Larry, where was the crowd? Larry, why is there so much talking and not more racing? Larry, why are there not field events? Those are all well thought out, cogent comments about the first meet. So we wanted to see what was going to happen a month later in Miami. Now, what did we see? We saw a stadium, 3,000 people. So 3,000 people versus 30,000, big difference. If you can't fill up 30,000, Jeff, I've already mentioned Roger, and I'll put something else up in a few minutes. We have Jeff Benjamin, our senior writer from Staten Island, just came on to remind me that it's Roger Bannister's 71st anniversary of the first sub-4 minute mile, and we'll be talking about that more. I came in on the intro with that as well. But what happened in Miami, I thought there was some incredible races, but there was drama because from the first meet, some of the people who we wanted to do well, Jareem Richards, Josh Kerr, just didn't do well. Some of the people we were kind of going, Cindy McLaughlin, can anybody beat her? And then also Gabby Thomas and Melissa Jefferson-Wooden. Great stories. Jareem Richards was he's from Trinidad and Tobago. He had recently run a PB at 100 meters, and he came back and ran 19.84 to win the 200. He won the short sprints, $100,000. What had happened in Kingston is he had been sick, and to me, the one of the highlights of the entire meet, and again, kudos to the film crew and the producers, because they did a much better job on Meet 2 than Meet 1, and I'll explain in a minute or two. But what they did is they tried to make the meet more personal for us. And to me, the most personal moment was seeing Coach Lance Brauman, who's the coach of Noah Lyles and Dream Richards and many other top athletes. He was able to shake Dream's hand right after the 200. He was or after he won the 100 too. Just very, very proud of him. It was the 200 and the 400. And Dream ran 1984, and he came back the next day and ran 44:34 in the 400, which this guy's in some serious shape. I think he can go sub 44. The winning time in that race was Yakari Patterson, who I believe is working at UPS. He ran 43:97. And so he picks up 50 grand, which really helps, That's a lot more than a few UPS shifts, don't you think? And then Dream, they got to tell the story about Dream, which was really riveting. And Dream's just a great athlete. I've got to interview him several times, and I just think he's a good guy. And then we had, let me get this, just to make sure it's looking good, okay? And then we had, I think all the races the second meet were riveting. Why? Because there was a story. We now had something to tie in. It wasn't just one meet. We were coming into the second meet. And the short distances, the 800 and the 1500. In the first meet, Josh Kerr got his ass handed to him. He just, as he said, he was fit, but he wasn't ready to race. He wasn't fit to race. And his self-reflection, I think, is really key. It's one of the reasons why he's a champion. He's the world champion at 1,500 meters. He's beat Ingebrigtsen, and that was in Budapest. And then he came back in the 3,000 in 2024 in one of the 3,000. And then he took the silver, beating Ingebrigtsen again, losing to Cole Hawker in the Olympics. So he's got a bronze medal, silver medal, 2 golds in the world champs. What's he going to do this year, right? So the first meet, I thought he was in position to win in the 1,500, and I think he finished 4th or 5th. In the 800, he was trying to race, but anybody who's run the mile in the 880 or the mile in the 800 or the 1,500 knows the 800 is just 2 minutes of absolute hell. And Josh ran a 150, I think, in that first one. And I was curious about how he was faring, and so I watched a couple of his podcasts, which I got to tell you, Josh is doing a great podcast. He's financing it himself, bringing his own crew, the whole 9 yards. And in Miami, he paid for 19 of his family members from Scotland and the Dominican Republic to be there. And it was pretty cool. The 1,500, he won smartly. It was a honest race at 3:34, really good time for this time of the year, right? And then he came back in the 800 and ran a 1:45.01, a PB in 5th place, and he won the 100 grand. And as he said, which I thought was kind of tickled me, that would go to paying for his family's trip to Miami. So congratulations, Josh. Sydney McLaughlin did 2 things that were spectacular. 1, she's racing early in the season. 2, she raced twice in 2 days. She has 48 points. She won both races in Kingston and both in Miami. She's quite impressive. Gabby Thomas moved herself around, her and her coach. Then she went down to the short sprints, did the 200, which she won. The 100, she lost to Melissa Jefferson Wooden, and Melissa finished 2nd in a PB, so Melissa won the overall. But Gabby, I thought, looked very, very good. The long distances, Grant Fisher had a race for it. In the 3,000, they jogged until the last couple laps, and he let it come down to the last 225 and change. And Andrew Cascoran from Ireland outkicked him. Lesson 568 for distance runners. Do not let a race like a 3,000 or a 5,000 and come down to the last 200, is if there's anybody else who can kick in there, who thinks they can kick or who are inspired, which means really dumb to do that. So Grant sure didn't do that in the 5,000. 5,000 was won in about 13:40, but they ran the last mile under 4 minutes, and that shook a few people up. And Grant won that race, and he, learned a good lesson. And I'm getting a kick out of watching the who wins, both races, who wins the 100 grand each time. And there's several people who've won it now in both events. So I'm very curious to see what's going to happen in Philly. My biggest concern about Philly is the crowd. I was praying for them to move it to another stadium so they wouldn't have as many seats to fill, because that's what people are going to remember. And then they're not, NBC will not be using stuff from that meet, photos from that meet or film from that meet, because they're not going to show a weak track meet. They just can't do that. Think about all the sports they cover, and whatever the event is, and how they try to show an excited fan base, because that's a big part of the sport. That's why sponsors are involved. That's the challenge for Michael. That's one of his challenges. His other challenge is that I really think it's been a great mistake not to have field events. And there's three. There's the shot put, there's the pole vault, and there's the long jump, or the high jump, or do 4 events. They have the time to do it, and they could have done a field event. One on Friday, 2 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday. They could have done it and made it work. And the sport is track and field, not just track. And I think Michael has made a critical error there, and I hope he reconsiders it. Ryan Krauser and Chase Jackson and Sarah Mitten are some of the most popular, and Joe Kovash, some of those popular athletes. Katie Moon, Mondo Duplantis. How the living hell do you not have a pole vault for Mondo, right? The long jump, Tara Davis Woodall, among others. The women's long jump is incredible. The high jump, Yaroslava Mahuchik, incredible. And there's some great men in the high jump as well. Those events need to go on. I really am shocked that World Athletics in 2026 doesn't have the shot put. It may be the dumbest move I think they've ever done in their ultimate championships. It's not an ultimate championships if you don't have the shot put. That's total bullshit. And they don't get it. But there is those are the kind of disconnects that I wonder about sometimes. But so people are asking, Larry, if you gave a B to meet one, what are you going to do this time? I'm going to give it a B+. I think they're doing pretty well. Now, here's some of my observations. On Sunday, the place wasn't completely full, and the crowd was not as excited about things as they were on Friday and Saturday. Now, that is communicated off the not only off the broadcast, but also I have some friends who are at the meet, and I've been chatting with them. People want the event to succeed, but there's a lot of people who don't. The former director of the Weltklasse is still on LinkedIn. He hated the meet the first time. Now he's saying they should shut down after meet 2. I think he dislikes Michael Johnson, and I think he needs to kind of turn that down a little bit, because the criticisms that he's making, some of them are completely legit, are lost in his vitriol. Just not a good way to do it. So Michael, I thought that was a good event. That was one of our events. On Saturday, we had the second Diamond League meet. And remember, Diamond League is 14 major events in the championship. 1 day, summer, 2-day meets all over the world. They've been around since 2010, celebrating the best of the best in track and field. World Athletics is a founding partner. And Wanda is one of the sponsors, the big Chinese multi-conglomerate. The second meet, again, the first meet in Jianin last weekend had, 40,000 people in the stadium. It looked fantastic. Mondo de Pontes, delivered. We went 6:01. There were some great performances. Killer steeplechase, man. But also Faith Kipyegon, Beatrice Chebet. In the second meet, Yaroslava Mahuchek went over 2:01. Karsten Warholm ran a 47:24. It was kind of a dodgy race because his 300 the week before, he looked really good. He just wasn't. Ready to race the 400, and he said that. And that's one of the things I like about Karsten. But there were some great races. The women's 800 was spectacular. But the one that caught everybody was Cordell Tinch, 12:87, the number 4 time, 4 time in U.S. history, just behind, do you know, Harry's Merritt, Grant Holloway, Devin Allen. So now Cordell is third. He looked superb. Hurdlers, Trey Cunningham at Grand Slam, 13 flat. And what was it? Zaya Soa from France, 13:06 PB. Both of them ran PBs. Masai Russell in the Grand Slam, number 2. American record. Masai Russell ran a 12:17 American record. The number 2 time all time. Second place in that race, Tia Jones ran 12:19. Can you imagine the team the U.S. is going to take to the Worlds in Tokyo if these athletes can stay healthy? It's pretty amazing. And I was very impressed with Masai. But the funny thing was, is she sets a world record there. She didn't win the short hurdles because she got beat in the 100. And that's part of the drama of the event, So you have Grand Slam going on. You have the Diamond League going on Saturday. Saturday night, you have the Save the 10,000. The performances in Grand Slam, I thought, were better than the meet before. I thought the facility fit the meet better. That it should, every one of the meets for the first 2 years should be in smaller places to fill it up and get people really excited. I thought the stories of athletes in the second meet were much, much better. I did watch, so how did you watch the Diamond League, Larry? I watched it on FlowTrack. I got a subscription, $12.50 a month or $158 for the year. I figured it was worth it and that I would get my money's worth. At $12.50 average, hell, that's 2 of your damn lattes, so get over it. But what they did was, and this is just the second meet, they're just kind of getting into it. The second meet was, they had the global broadcast, but they also had three or four field event feeds, and one was in English. And I watched the shot and the discus, and that was really fun. I got up at 3:30 so I could watch it. Yeah, I'm a geek. And then I watched the Grand Slam later that day and watched the Grand Slam on Sunday. What I'll be catching up on is the Save the 10,000, which is an event that Des Linden and Kara Goucher put on in Los Angeles to really support the 25 lapper, because there's fewer and fewer places for athletes to run it. And while they didn't have qualifiers, they had some exciting races, and I think those things are really good. And I love that Kara and Des do that. They have a wonderful podcast, and we'll put some links up for that too. I think you should really check that out. I talked a little bit about the 2 podcasts that three podcasts that I've been watching. One with Cole Hawker and Cooper Tier, which I really like. And I've watched, I think, a couple episodes of that. Then I watched a lot of the early stuff with Jakob Ingebrigtsen, and now I'm watching the new YouTube channel, which I think he's doing a great job on. And then the one that I've been very intrigued by is Josh Kerr. Josh Kerr is doing, he's got his own production company, his own videographers, put a nice team together, and you're getting to see how an athlete in this day and age, an elite professional athlete, tries to run their life. And you get to see Danny Mackey, the coach, and Danny does not have a poker face. You know when Danny's worried or when he's not worried. Danny's just a good guy. And he is a wonderful coach and has developed some really fine athletes. And what he's doing with Josh is spectacular. And I think those are things that really need to be seen and addressed. And that's why the podcast helped me understand and write about the athletes. And so that's what I'll be doing tonight. I'm going to spout off a little bit. So we'll see what I can write about and what Jeff Shaver comments on it and what Charles Alexander and some of my other friends. But I want to get back to the significance of the first sub 4 minute mile. The truth is that 2 years before, 1952, Roger Bannister ran a 4:02.6 mile, but it was never ratified because I think it was Brazier jogged for a lap, waited to catch up with him, and then ran all out with him for the last lap. That was considered not an honest effort. Nike is behind a thing called Breaking 4. They're calling it a moonshot. I might call it a Mars shot. Our friends at Let's Run have said there's no way in hell she's going to run sub 4 this year. And I tend to agree with him. I wonder why my friends did it now. Well, I kind of know why they did it now. My belief is that Nike is starting to make some good efforts and they're getting overly enthusiastic. But they should have let our friend Faith run a 4:04, 4:05. I think she's capable of 4:05 right now. And then come out with it and build it up for a year. It could have been a wonderful thing. What's happened right now is most of the energy has gone away from it. And they don't need that. I mean, they've got, they're pushing their Pegasus line. They're pushing their Vomero 18, which is a pretty damn good shoe. But as one young woman, a reviewer, told me, the Vomero 18 is a really good shoe, and I didn't want to like it. Then her next comment was, but other brands have been doing shoes like this or better for years. And that's the message that Nike needs to get. And I think they are, and that's a good thing. Coffee with Larry, I've been doing this since June of 2022. I'm over 725 episodes. And thank you for watching. Coffee with Larry is sponsored daily by our friends at Omius. They're the cooling technology company. They do hats, visors, and headbands. And you have these little pods in them. And you spray some water on them, and it keeps you cool. And I used it in August out here. But Safan Hassan and Bashar Abdi used them in the Paris Olympic marathons, which was hot as hell. And they medaled. Now, the guys at Omius aren't going to guarantee you a medal. But I think it could make your workout more pleasant and your race more pleasant. It's omius.io, and they've been our sponsor since last August, and they're here till this August. Please support them, and buy one of their hats. Check it out. They also, for coaches and elite athletes, will be happy to send you some product. Just email me at runblogrun@gmail.com, and we'll share it with you. Coffee with Larry is also sponsored by our friends at Pace Events. Pace puts on 2 major events in the Middle East. Right now we're focusing on the Dubai Marathon, which is the 25th anniversary. It is February 1, 2026. DubaiMarathon.org. Check it out. It's also Adidas is one of the sponsors. They do killer shirts and some nice shoes for the event as well. Also, our friends at Global Athletics. We're doing the Adidas Atlanta track games, city games, which is a street meet and a regular track meet. It's May 17th, 2025 in Atlanta, Georgia, in Piedmont Park, in a nearby high school. I've got all the information on the site. Please check it out. I think this is their, third, fourth year? But they're doing a great job. Noah Lyles will be there. Something to check out. And finally, the major sponsor of RunBlogRun and 40 East Media since 1990 has been Brooks Running. Brooks Running makes incredible running shoes, great apparel, and they sponsor American athletes. And that's what I really like. And they're giving these athletes a chance to develop. They're also sponsoring global athletes like Josh Kerr. Danny Mackey's a wonderful coach. The Hanson brothers are incredible coaches. And they have some superb, they've really got a great group of women athletes too, which I'm really excited about. But I'm like the Brooks Ghost 17, totally rocks, right? The Ghost Max I have, I'm going to check out the Ghost Max too. I have the Hyperion Max. I also have, you see kind of a method going here, right? And I have the Beast. I have 5 of their shoes. I really like them. It's brooksrunning.com. They've been around since 1914. Please check them out. They've been with me since 1990. When I had heart surgery in 2018, they were the only ones who stayed with me. And that meant a lot. So, run, jump, and throw today. Tell someone you love them. Do a random act of kindness. And thank you again. This is Coffee with Larry for Tuesday, May 6th, 2025. This is the 71st anniversary of Sir Roger Bannister breaking 4 minutes for the mile and inspiring us for all those years. Peace out.